The Outlaw Music Festival is coming August 19th. Willie Nelson, the Avett Brothers, Lucas Nelson, and more. Mystic Lake Amphitheater. Tickets available now. Get full details, KFAN.com, keyword calendar.
Right. Speculation. All right. The scholarly scribe, Ben Goessling, in studio 9 to noon at Ben Goessling via X. Learn more about the podcast. Access Vikings. Most recent one, I believe, was with Emily. The newsletter, the elite tweets, and the occasional Apple Valley High School distance competition update. We had a talkback question yesterday.
Yeah.
That I'm going to present later today, potentially. And so no need to overthink this because, like, say, I don't watch every game. But we just want to hear what God puts in your heart via discernment. Better chance to advance, Wild over Stars or Timberwolves over Nuggets?
Boy, I would probably say, gosh, I'm going to make somebody mad.
You're overthinking it again.
I probably would say Wolves over Nuggets. I think the Wild have faced that matchup a lot, and it's a bad draw because they're probably the third best team in the Western Conference, maybe one of the top 5 in the NHL, but they're 2 of the teams that are in front of them are in their division. So the way the NHL is set up,
that's dumb.
It's it's like the old 90s thing when you would have all the divisional rivalries in the first rounds where it was the Norris division and the Smythe division, all of these things. So they went back to this this all happened when I was covering the Wild. I think for the 5 minutes I was on the beat, all the realignment stuff happened, and they were in favor of it because it meant they didn't have to fly to Western Canada all the time and have all the 9 o'clock starts that people couldn't see on TV. But then what comes out of that is you're in a tough division, and this is one of those things. So, yeah, I would say the Wolves because they've beaten the Nuggets in the past, and the Wild have had trouble with the Stars. So I will go with the Wolves.
Last 28 between the Wolves and the Nuggets, 14-14.
Yeah.
Wolves bumped them in the playoffs a couple of years ago. Wolves beat Denver a month and a half ago there and looked pretty good doing so. I know you're not better guy, but you get odds, and that could factor into the way you look at things sometimes. The Denver Nuggets are basically 3.5 to 1 favorites to win that series.
Yeah. Wild
Stars, pretty close to even. Like Stars might be a lukewarm favorite in that series. Now, what does the scribe say?
People are that are making odds are looking at things probably a little more closely than I am. But yeah, that's interesting. The Wolves have been inconsistent, I suppose, and that's maybe where some of that comes in, is what team is going to show up. I think a lot of it obviously depends on Ant, and I think you can have a star player that influences things in an NBA series more than you can in the NHL, certainly. So, I've kind of just I'm going with my gut on this a little bit. I just think if Ant gets hot and has one of those transcendent moments, which he's due for, that would be the thing that would put the Wolves over the top.
Speaking of the Wolves, to land the plane on the basketball team, how did it hit you, if it even hit you? Kevin Garnett is now back in the fold with the Wolves and attending games. Were you a fan of his back in the Apple Valley High School days?
Oh, yeah. That run. I guess the one they made, I was in college. I actually ended up covering a lot of that series.
Really? The Daily?
No, for the Washington Post. The Western Conference Finals, they needed...
You were a stringer?
They needed a stringer, and they called, and I was like... Yeah, I'll do that. That sounds great.
You were in college?
I was in college. I ended up talking to Mike Wilbon in the media room, waiting for Garnett to talk, and it was super fun. But a lot of those one and done runs were when I was in high school, and early college. But yeah, I remember the Garnett Marbury series against the Sonics, and like where they had a chance to win that series. I remember like staying up and listening to the broadcast in my room. Probably
was it
after
Kevin
I was supposed to go to bed. Yeah, yeah,
wow,
yeah. It was. All of the calls, the don't hurt him, big fella, and with no regard for human life. I won't try to do the impressions because everybody can hear him do them better than I can.
Up high, down hard.
Yeah, all of that stuff. I watched those teams a lot. Having Garnett back in the building, I think it's time. I think it's good to see it. I think 21 probably needs to go into the rafters here relatively quickly, and we all know why. I mean, it's the new ownership he's had a better relationship with them than he's had with Glenn Taylor. So all of that stuff has come in time, and yeah, it's fun to see it. It would be fun to see him back for the playoffs because I remember covering that game against the Kings. I was stringing for the Post where it was, I think, his 30th birthday, in the Western Conference semifinals where he had the big, I think 37 and 21 or something like that, and jumps on the scorer's table and all that stuff. I remember stringing games for the AP, sitting between Dave Campbell from the AP, the longtime AP writer, and Sid Hartman.
I was going to guess Steve Ashburner.
No, I was sitting next to Sid, and Dave goes, "Hey, cover your computer up," and I was like, "Why?" And it was right as Garnett came over because he always did the talcum powder thing, and would hit Sid's laptop on purpose. Because Jordan used to do this to Sam Smith, so Garnett got it from there. But yeah, Dave would always. This is back when we were courtside. Writers are not courtside at Target Center anymore, but. Yes, I remember that. Just like, why? Because Garnett's coming over to hit Sid with talcum powder, and you don't want to catch the strays from that when he does that to Sid.
Last one here.
Down memory lane we go.
When you were at Apple Valley High School, is it true current ESPN Vikings beat writer Kevin Seifert was your mentor?
That is 100% true.
Okay, so what's it like working with and journalistically competing against a mentor?
It's interesting. I mean, it's one of those things. It's funny because that at this point was like more than half my life ago, I suppose. 2001. So it was probably 24 years ago. It is a testament to mentorship and that it works because I will give him his shine on the radio. I can trace every job I've ever had to that connection I made when I was 18. Internship I had in D.C. at the paper he used to work at. First job at the Strib that certainly helped. Getting to ESPN, I remember when they were going to the NFL Nation thing, he was like the NFC North blogger, and then they had a national role in mind for him. And I remember calling him and saying, "Hey, are you getting this Vikings job?" He said, "No, they've got a national thing set up for me at the time." I said, "Well, that's good for you, and it might be good for me." And so he told me, "Here's who you send stuff to," and I sent clips, and we talked on the phone. John Banks was the editor. We talked on the phone for like 10 minutes, and then it's like, okay, well, it's good that he called. And then the next day, he called me back and says, "Hey, we want to bring you out to Bristol for an interview." And I'm thinking, okay, you've talked to Kevin in the last 24 hours. So competing against him now is interesting because
or working with him.
Yeah, that's probably more
journalistically competing though.
Yeah, we are, and it brings out everybody's best. It's a friendly competition, but yeah, I have immense respect for the way he's done it. I remember getting the editor that hired me at ESPN. I remember he said to me in a meeting once, he goes, "You're really smart. You're like a mini Seifert." And I said, "That's about as high of a compliment as anybody's ever given me."
Agreed.
So. It is. I mean, there's certainly friendly rivalry now. It's competitive, yes, but it is. It's one of those things that's a little bit surreal because I still see him every day, and we still, we were texting about something last week, and so it's one of those testaments to like when people take the time to give back to you, and he had people do that for him in his career. And I remember he introduced me to a guy named John Lowe who was covering the Tigers for the Detroit Free Press and is famous. I mean, hundreds of people in this business would point to John Lowe as one of their great mentors. And I remember meeting John at a baseball game at the Metrodome during that mentorship. And, those connections led to things. So if anybody is listening to this that's young in this business, mentorship works. I mean, in any business you're in, mentorship works. People that help send the ladder back down. It's why I do it a lot. I've done it for a lot of kids over the years because Kevin did it for me and it meant the world. So, it's really important.
Well stated. Ben Goessling at Ben Goessling via X. The Green Bay Packers do not have a first-round pick the next couple of years.
Yeah.
And I, if I'm a Packers fan, I'm not mad at the deal, knowing what I got from Michael Parsons. Right. But do you think the Green Bay Packers not would have gotten there would have won the Super Bowl had Michael Parsons stayed healthy. I mean, they were good with him.
They looked awfully good. Yeah. I mean, there were some of those games, I think early in the season, as dominant as they looked. And then that first Bears game that they won, that was like, you could see the difference pretty drastically between the first and second game when he wasn't there to chase Caleb Williams around. So, I mean, he's one of those players that tilts the field in a way that few people do. There's great pass rushers around the league. Myles Garrett certainly at the top of that list. But the thing Parsons does when he's healthy is you have to account for him wherever he's going to be. You have to slide your protection toward him. You have to be mindful of where he's going to come from, and he can do it from anywhere. So the phrase game wrecker gets overused. He is as true of an embodiment of game wrecker as I think anybody in the league. So,
big time.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still not convinced that Jordan Love takes them on the kind of run that they would have needed to win the Super Bowl, especially because they wouldn't have had the bye.
Yep. And no Tucker Kraft.
Yeah, that hurt too. I mean, I think they certainly would have been a factor to make a run because he is that type of player that just changes a lot of things for everybody on the field around him, and just you have to account for him everywhere he is. So that's, I think for them in 26, how he recovers and how healthy he is coming off that ACL is going to be one of the big keys to how good they're going to be.
Does the scribe have any new steam for the Minnesota Vikings at 18? Find out next.
Join the fans' meat sauce at Fleet Farm in Carver this Saturday for their Fleet Fest celebration. You can join us 10 a.m. to noon for incredible deals, free food, and prizes. Get full details, KFAN.com, keyword calendar.
We're happy for you.
Any new steam at 18?
I don't have a new steam. I mean,
Yeah.
I think
I'm stamping Oregon safety. I'm stamping the Oregon safety, and
Dylan Thieneman?
probably not moving from it.
you, me, and the rest of the world. Yeah, I think that pick would, I mean, the question will be, I suppose, if he's there, if he goes a little higher. But man, there's a lot there that I think Bob McGinn, the great former Packers beat writer that now writes with Ty Dunn over at Go Long, his scouting report, I mean, that is as good of a resource in terms of pre-draft stuff as you'll find.
Really?
It's really good because a lot of the scouts that Bob talks to, Bob has a deep network of scouts, and a lot of them will be pretty candid with him. And I think I think it was there. Maybe I saw it somewhere else. But anyway, Bob's stuff is really good.
So Bob's really good at what he does?
Bob's really good at what he does.
I've heard of him for years,
He's phenomenal.
but never followed it.
Yeah, he's phenomenal.
Wow.
And his draft report is as good of a resource as you'll find. But I believe it was there that somebody referred to Thieneman as a poor man's Harrison Smith. And it's like, okay, so meaning he'll do a lot of the things in terms of versatility, in terms of being able to play different places, understanding the concepts, and he runs like a 4.35. So there's a lot to like there. And the way they use safeties, they need help at that position with or without Harrison Smith, I think, because they have a decision to make. I was just looking this up this morning and starting to work on mock draft stuff. They have like a $10 million vesting guarantee on Josh Metellus that hits next spring. So in other words, they're going to have a decision to make on Josh Metellus next year. And you take that, you take Harrison Smith, you take the fact that, maybe there was more they would have wanted to see from Theo Jackson. I think safety makes a lot of sense. I mean, Emmanuel McNeil-Warren, I think we talked about a little bit last week too. And I like him. Thieneman, if he's there, I think that pick would be a very nice fit for them.
Nebraska running back Emmett Johnson.
Yeah.
Richfield Holy Angels, familiar?
Yes. Yeah.
All right. Well, he's going to be in studio this Friday, 9 to noon for the Friday football feast. I'm tabbing Emmett as a third or maybe second round pick. Do you think there's a chance that happens maybe even here?
It's very possible it could. I mean, I think he's been in on a top 30, and that's, everybody kind of goes nuts about those. If you're local, that's a free one. So if you grew up here or if you went to the University of Minnesota, for example, they can bring those players in, and it doesn't count against their 30.
So it's like top 34, but 4 are local.
Yeah, exactly.
Never knew that.
Yeah, so I think that rule changes in the last couple of years to give teams a little bit more of an obvious connection to the local team. So you see some Gophers come in, or local players in his case, that way. If they're grew up around here, I think there've been a number of guys that have come through on that kind of a thing over the last few years. I think it's possible that he would come here. I think they need a back, and I would think that second or third round probably makes more sense unless Jeremiah Love is sitting there, which I don't think he will be. Mm-hmm. So if it ends up that way, there's the other running back from Notre Dame that is going to be attractive as well, probably in one of those day 2 picks. But yeah, Emmett Johnson, I think, could certainly be a guy they look pretty seriously at if they want another back to go with Aaron Jones and Jordan Mason.
So if I were to lay it out if I were to lay out a scenario like this, a speculative scenario where Thieneman is going to be available at 18, but for whatever the reason, Jeremiah Love is there at 13. 12, 13, Ravens 14. Ravens ain't taking Jeremiah Love.
No.
Well, they might, but I think they love Kenyon Sadiq, the Oregon tight end.
Yeah, he's really good too.
So if Love somehow is 5 or 6 picks in front of Minnesota, but Thieneman's nowhere to be found, so you can have him and keep your picks, what do you do?
I mean, I think they like Love a lot, but if I had to bet, I think the overriding approach on this draft is going to be, let's not get overly tricky with trying to hit, bank shot off 3.
Yep. It's Hevel.
Yeah, 3 corners of the pool table and try to figure something out that way. I think it's going to be, they want to make a lot of picks. They want to get a lot of players in here who can contribute. I think stick and pick is probably a little more of the overriding approach on this one than let's try to trade all over the board and try to manipulate the board. Yeah. At least that's what I've heard. I think is going to be, and if things come up, I mean, that one, I think they'd be very interested in it, but it's what are you spending to get up? And if it's, they've got to give up another one of those top 100 picks to move 5 spots, which I think they would. I don't know. I mean,
it's 2%. Love is in that hypothetical.
Yeah, it is. And I think that would be very attractive because I know they liked Jahmyr Gibbs a couple of years ago, and they've had it handed to them a number of times how dynamic he is, unless you make him pass protect, which was kind of the hack last year to neutralize him. But I think if they found a player, if they found Love and he could be that type of player in their offense, it'd be very attractive. But if that price is really high, I could see them saying, no, we want to continue to rebuild this roster with these picks, and we're not going to give up a ton of them to move up.
Scribe, what's your recollection of how the team generally handles players with medical stuff?
Yeah.
All right, because you're about to do a mock. I started a Monday mock this year going 1 through 8 and then 9. So we're going to have 4 of them right up to the wrap. I hate it. I hate doing it.
Yeah, I do too.
Well, because I forget a guy.
Yeah.
Okay. And then I'm like, oh, this is great. So then I got to redo it and then get on the radio and say, we have a correction.
Yeah.
And I'm moving guys around and stuff. Then it's like, you know what? I'm not Jordan Reed from ESPN.
Yeah.
Okay. It's not stuck in stone and I'm going to write 5 others.
Yeah.
So I really haven't enjoyed it, but I've continued doing it. The audience seems to like it because I just keep second guessing myself.
People love mock drafts.
Right. So I'm through like the Bears at 25. But with the Bears at 25, I'm like, what's the next layer with Ben Johnson?
Yeah.
It's taking risks where clearly he's not afraid to try trick plays. He's not averse to risk. So what about this Florida inside defensive lineman, Caleb Banks?
Yeah.
I mean, my man has foot problems so badly, he broke one at the combine.
Yeah.
Ben's like, I don't care. I love my medical staff. I'll take him. And if it works out 85% our way, he's going to change games.
Yeah.
So Banks, Caleb Downs, Jordan Tyson, a wide receiver from Arizona State University, where he's had, ACL, MCL, all that, but recently a series of hamstring injuries. And he's a wide receiver. So, I think I had him 12, 13, and I'm like, well, learned about the hamstring. We're going to put him back at 24. So I put Downs at the Bears at 25. But generally, your recollection of how this group, with Tyler Williams and his staff, handle players with medical stuff, and in fairness, almost all of the Minnesota Vikings key free agents last year came off significant injuries. So what do you think?
That has been something I think they've viewed as a competitive advantage, and that does come with risk. I mean, I think that was Andrew Van Ginkel. I think, Aaron Jones probably that depressed the market for him, and some of that's just age too, but they've had a number of players where they've said, heck, Byron Murphy, I think, was coming off a back injury when they signed him. So they have said, we will bet on these players a little bit because we think our medical staff is good enough to get them healthy and keep them healthy. And certainly, Van Ginkel had some of the stuff early last season, but overall, they've been able to get, I think, quite a bit of value out of what they signed him for. And Blake Cashman has had some things over the last couple of years, more so in 24 than 25. But yeah, I think overall they have said if we can get players in here that may have a little bit of a depressed market because there's injury concerns, and we think that we're going to be better at managing those things than other teams would be, that's basically a way to recoup some value with the help of a training staff that obviously is not counting against the cap because that's not part of it. So I think that's been part of their approach. Now, how much of that was a Kwesi thing? How much of that will change without him being in there? I don't think a lot of that will change necessarily. I think that's been more probably the training staff and more, I think, probably Brian Flores defensively saying, hey, these guys, if we can get them in here, are going to be big pieces for us. So yeah, I do think that's been an overriding theme since this group got here. I would expect that probably continues.
If they do, do you believe if they draft an edge guy, so think Van Ginkel, Grenard, Dallas Turner,
right?
If they draft an edge guy at 18 or maybe with their second round pick, does that mean Grenard for sure is a goner?
I don't think it means that he's a goner for sure, because I think they will still want to get a lot for him. Yep. And they know they hold the cards in the sense that he's signed. Unless he were to, make it ugly, which I have a little bit of a hard time seeing. But,
Me too.
I would think what they would look at if they drafted one, and I don't think it's impossible they would. Because
at 18.
If there's somebody they really like, because here's why. Grenard, you do have that question. Andrew Van Ginkel, I believe, is 31. He's in a contract year. Dallas Turner was better last year than we've seen him, but that question of is he an every down player? He's in that Grenard probably type role, and you have to make a decision on 50-year option. I'm sure they'll pick that up, but the long-term decision on him is looming. So they're stocked now. But you have players, not everybody in that group is 25. So I wouldn't be stunned if they said, let's get another one. And it also is one of those positions where it's hard to have too many because if you have guys coming fresh late in a season that can get to a quarterback, we've seen teams send waves of pass rushers and make deep playoff runs because of it. So, I would be surprised probably if that was the pick at 18. I guess I wouldn't be completely shocked. I would put it that way.
And maybe you reported it or I saw it or heard it somewhere. Like Brian Flores, I don't know the totality or length of this new deal that he got.
Yeah.
But if I were to believe it was a rich deal for many years, and what
That's my understanding.
Okay, and maybe you said it like. For Flores, it was important to know quarterback situation is going to be okay, right? So we got that. Well, if I'm Brian and I'm looking at Genk at 31, with the neck last year, and he's 31, Grenard wants to break the bank, and I think JG should break the bank. He's really good, but it may not be here.
Right.
And Dallas is young. Well, I just wonder how much say Flores would have with Brzezinski and O'Connell when it comes to, it's part of the deal here, man, is we got to get two more of these to sustain for X amount of years. You think that's fair?
Yeah, I think that's going to be part of the thinking, yes. I think they need to continue to build that position because it is really important to what they do. Grenard has been as important of a piece in that defense as they have. He's the guy that takes on a lot of blocking. He's the guy that gets a lot of the extra attention. Van Ginkel plays such a unique role. I don't know that you're going to find somebody that just, we'll recreate that. I'm not sure how easy it is to do that because some of what he does is so intuitive that not every player is going to have that. But
Correct.
You need, for the way they like to attack quarterbacks, you need people that can do it. And it's not just numbers. It's people that can beat blocks. It's people that can be deceptive. It's people that can drop into coverage at times, people that can beat a double team or at least, get some push against those double teams and push things back and collapse the pocket a little bit. I think all of those things are important. Defensive tackle can also help with this. It doesn't just have to come with edge rushers. You can have straight ahead pass rush and interior pass rush that makes a big difference. That's what they tried to do last year to getting Allen and Hargrave, and I think Jalen Redmond becomes part of that. Maybe they get another piece there. It's a good defensive tackle draft. But yes, I think pass rushers in general are very important to what they do. This is built front to back as much as anything. And if you can continue to add to that group, I think they would look to do it.
So the Naylor spot, veteran wide receiver for the Jalen Naylor spot, or do you think O'Connell and the gang are sitting on something sneaky they love in the draft?
I would answer that yes.
In the draft?
To both.
Okay.
I think if they could find a veteran, DeAndre Hopkins' name has come up.
Well, it's a big chance here for Ty Felton, too.
Yeah, it is. Yes, that is true. And I think they were optimistic about some of the things they saw late in the year with him, but he's got a lot to prove. And if you could get a guy in here like a Hopkins that has a rapport with Kyler Murray, depends what he wants to play for, depends what he wants the role to be.
Can he still play?
But, well, there's also that. He's had a lot of miles on him. I'm not sure how fast he is. That's never been quite the game with him. I think with him as a red zone target, he's awfully good. So that would be something that would be helpful. But yeah, I think adding another receiver is important, not just for this year, because, you have the questions this year with Felton. Is he going to play that role? You lose Naylor. The Jordan Addison discussion comes in after this year because you got the 5th-year option with him, so he'll probably play that, but then are you going to sign him long-term when you're already paying Justin Jefferson for a couple more years and then, possibly looking at another Jefferson deal, a couple of years from now? We'll see, but I would find it hard to imagine they'll give Naylor market value money when they're still paying Jefferson and are going to have to make a decision on a quarterback eventually.
Addison,
too.
you mean?
Yes, excuse me. Yes, got it. Jordan Addison. So if that's the case, you need younger players that are going to be under club control for a few years at that position. So I think that could be a need. I also wonder about tight end because Hawkinson's a free agent now after this year. And having another pass-catching option at that spot could help them, too, especially as you see all of these teams say, let's play 12 personnel, keep you in base, and we throw out of it. So
I want to tie it into the second round.
Yeah. And so, there are some freaky ones. Eli Stowers is good grief.
Well, look up this cat named Trigg from Baylor. He's another one. There's a Roush from Stanford. It's happening again. At the Combine, just heard pretty much the same thing I heard in that Tucker Kraft draft. Tucker, what did he go, 3rd, 4th round, something like that?
Yeah.
Kincaid was the guy. Laporta, 2nd round.
Right.
Musgrave, because of his speed, he was the guy. And Kraft's outplayed almost them all. I put him right there with Laporta.
Yes.
So it supposedly is one of those again. Let's close here. Any chance offensively for the Vikings they'd be interested in making Miles Price their version of Khalif Raymond and run some offensive tricks with him? And Raymond returns and he's really good.
Yeah.
Price returns and he's really good.
Yeah.
But Khalif plays some offense. And Miles is fast enough.
Yeah.
Just wonder if they got that up their sleeve.
Yeah, I could see that because I think a lot of what they wanted to add last year was a catch and run guy. Rondale Moore, before he gets injured and obviously ends tragically there, but that was one of the elements of this offense they wanted to add. And I think there's probably some hope that Ty Felton can do some of that. But yes, I think if you could add some element of that to your offense, that's helpful. I think Miles Price could do that. Some of that is catch and run on swing passes or on screens is not that different from a kick return, where it's you're setting up blocks, trying to find angles, where is there space. All of that type of skill plays on kick returns, and I think can also play in. That's what made Cordero Patterson so good at that. Some of it was he had speed and power, but being able to set up blocks and read angles and say, where can I cut back? Where can I make things happen for myself once I get the ball was, obviously that's what's made him an all-pro kick returner. And I think that was what made him so dangerous when they used him in that capacity on offense and where other teams have done it too. So I think there is some transfer there. And I imagine that's something they'll look at with Miles Price of how can we expand this role for him in year 2 beyond just special teams.
That was great. If we get a chance to see you next week of the draft, that would be dandy.
Let's do it.
Otherwise, have a great week. Thanks for the time.
Sounds good, man.
Ben Goessling, Star Tribune, StarTribune.com. At Ben Goessling via X. Follow him as 9 to Noon does. The Minnesota Twins are red hot. They're tied for having the best record in the American League. And their general manager, Jeremy Zoll, joins us next.
Playoff time calls for Carboni's Pizza. Game day fuel since 1954. You can fuel your Game 1 playoff party this Saturday by ordering at carbonispizza.com.
Jeremy Zoll is general manager for the red hot Minnesota Twins, a team that is tied for the best record in the American League. Took 2 of 3 at Toronto after sweeping the Tigers in a 4-gamer. I, like everybody else, knows marathon, not sprint. But we've generally heard we've heard before the team's off to a bad start, so marathon, not sprint. Let's see where it goes. It's 10-7 right now, man, and that's really cool. And the GM joins us now. Jeremy, it's Paul Allen. Thank you very much for helping. How are you?
Yeah, thanks so much for having me on. Doing great.
Right on, bud. Fascinating start to the season. We have Tariq Skubal and Garrett Crochet. They're considered 2 of the best in the game, and you guys knocked them around. Skubal a little bit, Crochet a lot. Shoot, you put Garrett Crochet on the worst game of his career last night. Do you think this hitting can stay close to consistent for quite some time?
Yeah, it was a really fun night at the park last night. A lot of cool stuff, and anytime you can chase one of the best starters in the game out before the second inning, gotta feel good about that. Fun to see the vibes in the dugout, especially on the Caratini home run, among other moments. But the guys have been doing a great job. A ton of quality at bats, creating really good situations. We lead the league in bases loaded plate appearances by a pretty significant margin right now, and have one of the best walk rates as a team in the league. So just, a lot of really quality at bats. Guys, aren't being selfish and trying to just pass it along to let the next guy take advantage, and, optimistic that we can keep this going here.
What's the Jeremy Zoll definition of a quality at bat?
Yeah, good question. I think, the idea, whenever you're facing, anytime you're facing a pitcher on the mound, you need to kind of have an initial profile of like, is this guy going to be in the zone a lot, or is he a little more wild, and do I need to make sure I'm working the count? So you're starting with like an individualized approach depending on what that pitcher does and how his stuff plays and how it matches to you, and can you execute that approach consistently in the game? So sometimes that might mean being aggressive earlier in at bats, and sometimes it might mean doing your best to work counts, but, from game to game and situation to situation, that's gonna change a little bit. And, again, the guys have been doing a really good job. Big credit to Keith Beauregard, Trevor Amicone, and Raiden Sierra, hitting coaches, for instilling that in spring training, and the guys executing on those plans so far.
Right on, man. That's a cool answer. Speaking of hitting, I saw this at The Athletic this morning, a Dan Hayes article. 11 days ago, you guys were hitting 169 with an OPS, on base plus slugging, an OPS of 530 against lefties. 530 ain't going to cut it. Now, Crochet is a southpaw who allowed 4 home runs in an inning and change and hit the showers after just 18 batters. So what has changed with the sudden battering of these southpaws?
Yeah, it was a slow start to those first 4 or 5 games. We faced a ton of lefties. We've had the most vert left plate appearances, by a pretty significant margin in the league so far, which is kind of just a weird schedule quirk, and some randomness in that. But, the first few days were slow. There was funky weather, a bunch of off days with the home openers in different cities, Baltimore and Kansas City, weird game times. It was tough for the guys to perfectly get into a routine, and everyone's got to figure it out. But, I think as we settle into a more normal night game schedule, playing every day, and then in turn facing a ton of lefties, has all actually served the group really well. And getting a bunch of guys going here over this last 8 or 9 games has been really fun to watch.
Taj Bradley has been excellent, and I know marathon, not sprint. Earn run average closer to 1 than 2, and a strikeout to walk ratio creeping up on 4 to 1. What's leading to Taj Bradley absolutely so far having the best season of his young career?
Yeah, we're really excited for Taj. He had an awesome offseason, came in ready to go in spring training, and I think he's so young, and he's already accrued so many major league starts relative to his age that he just has really matured this offseason in terms of his mindset, his mental approach, pitch to pitch, and being able to make adjustments. And, when he goes toe to toe with Skubal, that's a really fun outing to watch. The splitter is, when his splitter's on, that's a key pitch for him. And, he's been hitting on that early and often in his outings. But whenever you're throwing in the upper 90s, he touched 100, first Twin starter to ever do that, which is pretty cool for him. And then throwing a splitter in the low 90s, that's a pretty tough mix. Never mind, his cutter and his curveball. So we're really excited about where he's at. I thought it was really cool knowing he didn't have his best stuff in Toronto. He still, did a really good job mitigating damage and getting out of some big spots. So, I think that's the sign of a pitcher, maturing, right in front of us here, when even not on the best days can have a really strong outing and put the team in a position to win.
Bailey Ober is a fighter, isn't he? And I'm not in the clubhouse, and I'm not getting intel from anybody, but is it fair to say he has yet to hit stride, but goes on the grind each and every start to help the cause?
Yeah, absolutely. Bailey's an unbelievable competitor, and just wants to do everything he can to for the team and to put the team in a position to win. Fortunate to have known Bailey my whole time here, going back to when he was an A-ball when I started, and the way he goes about his business is first class. He works his tail off, and just doing everything he can to find ways to keep taking steps forward. But he knows that if he can mix and match, he throws a ton of strikes. He always has. Again, last night only one walk. So if he can keep the ball in the strike zone a lot and utilize all his pitches, his changeup's still a really good pitch, and he's able to induce a lot of weak contact. So we're glad we have him as a part of the group, and one of our more veteran guys as a role model for our younger players.
So with Bailey, do you think he's incrementally continuing to find a stride that is better?
Yeah, I think he's continuing to take steps forward there. Obviously a lot has been made about his velocity at different points, but we think he can still be an effective pitcher. He's shown that at various points in his career at whatever his fastball velocity is, and as he takes away some of the emphasis on that and more just on how he can get outs every night. I think we're gonna be in a good spot and keep finding building blocks for him to keep taking steps forward here.
Tell us about Victor Caratini, and in fact, every time I say Caratini, I don't know what his walk-up song is, but it should be like Victor Caratini. Just got that mob name. He hit a monster. Ladies and gentlemen.
Victor's. We were excited to be able to have the chance to bring him in. It was, an opportunity that was a little unexpected to present itself this off season. But when we realized we had a chance to be able to bring him in, we wanted to jump on that. And he gives a really quality at bat. Obviously, hit his first homer last night, and it was an absolute bomb off the Treasure Island Casino sign there. But
second deck,
he gives a really quality at bat. Another guy with really good walk rates and low strikeout rates. Obviously, a switch hitter and pretty strong from both sides. Doesn't have a big platoon split, but he brings great leadership, and veteran experience. It's a great partnership with him and Ryan Jeffers. There are two guys behind the plate, and his ability to connect with the pitching staff has been great, but he's also been doing a really nice job at first base, and that was part of the strategy when we signed him. We knew that, RJ was going to do the heavy lifting behind the plate, expecting him to take down 90 to 100 games. So that leaves 60 to 70 for Victor behind the plate, but want to make sure we're getting his bat in the lineup as much as possible. And for Shelty, in these versus left-handed pitcher matchups, want to have Victor in there as much as we can. And he's been doing a nice job at first base for us as well.
Yeah, I mean, he's one of a handful where if you believe Jeremy and the Minnesota Twins are balling on a budget right now for whatever the reason, Caratini, he's the kind of player you have to find. I mean, shoot, he's been around a decade. You guys signed him in January, and so far you're getting good bang for the buck. That second deck home run last night was amazing. Now, this is Jeremy Zoll, general manager for the Minnesota Twins, 9 to noon. Twins continue with the Bo Sox later this evening. And Joe Ryan, and just the reports from a couple of months ago about that inflamed lower back. So he seems to be pushing through it okay. I mean, Casey got him good a couple of weeks ago, but his last one at Toronto looked close to the ace that people have come to know. Is that fair, Jeremy?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Obviously he had a little bit of back inflammation early on in camp, so we just, wanted to be really cautious and not put him in harm's way. And, it was unfortunate it messed with, the plans for WBC, but did our best to try to navigate all that and make sure he was ready to go for the season. He had a really nice start on opening day in Baltimore. Obviously, the game didn't go our way, but Kansas City, extremely tough conditions. Joe won't make any excuses, but I'll chime in for him. It was foggy, crazy rain. There was a lot going on in that game that didn't make it the easiest to pitch in. But he looked really good in Toronto, and and I think there's a lot of really positive signs for Joe that, obviously he made the All-Star game last year with a really strong first half, and think he's going to keep going with that and push forward at the top of our rotation and be huge for us this year.
A few more for the GM. This is fantastic. I'm a Josh Bell guy. This is his 8th team in around 10 seasons, and his 900 on base plus slugging OPS. I mean, that's just under the elite level. How significant has Bell been, not only on the field, but in the clubhouse?
Yeah, Josh has been huge in that regard. His reputation around the game for the impact he has in the clubhouse, is just unbelievable, pristine, and the impact that he's had in his career in that regard. Obviously, Shelty had a previous connection with him in Pittsburgh, but as you noted, he's been in a whole bunch of places, and wherever he goes, everyone raves about the person he is, the leader he is. And later on this year, he's going to hit 10 years of service, which is a big milestone for guys, and excited for Josh for that. But, another guy similar to Victor, switch hitter, takes his walk, and has some real power there too, and is able to mitigate strikeouts at a pretty good rate. So he brings a lot of different things to the table. And, I think his season last year went a little bit under the radar being in Washington, but, from about late May on, he made some really positive strides, even given where he's at in his career. And we're seeing that, continue in the early going here, and excited for Josh this year for sure.
Jeremy, what team connectivity and given many predicted, all right, and predictions don't matter, who cares? And players, general managers, and managers and coaches, they all say they don't look at a lot of it, but most look at almost all of it. So, do you think, given many predicted, that you guys would have a bad season, at least for now? Has galvanized the clubhouse, kind of like the us against the negatives approach to bonding?
Yeah, I think there's some real truth to that. You could feel it in spring training, really from day one, the energy, the tone that Shelty and the coaching staff were setting, and talking about the standards and accountability, and hunting the good and building on that. And that was a focus in spring training, and has continued in the early going. When Shelty and I met with Tristan Gray on one of the last days of camp to let him know he made the team, he was the first one to say that, he really thinks we're going to surprise some people this year. And, that's something that, a lot of the guys have taken to. Byron, in all of our conversations with him, he feels like, people are selling us short. And we've talked about that a lot, that we're optimistic we're going to be able to surprise. Fortunate to be in this position so far. The guys are playing great, and you see it, again, I'll go back to the last night. You see the energy in the dugout and everyone pulling for one another. It's pretty cool, and looking forward to seeing them build on that as we keep pushing forward here.
All right. Lastly, appreciate the time. Would like to do it more if you have time. The team is red hot and opening eyes around the league, at least through 17. What do you think, Jeremy, it will take to get more fans to Target Field, or is it just a weather thing in this time of the year?
Yeah, we know that April is always a little tricky with, weather. We were on Weather Watch last night. I know that, a little bit south of us got crushed with some crazy storms that thought they were maybe coming to Target Field. Glad we got the game in, obviously, but I know the weather's tough in April, and recognize that, there's definitely some skepticism from various portions of the fan base, but all we can do is control what we can control, and keep trying to push forward here and put the guys in positions for success. And so far they're taking advantage of that. So, optimistic that if this momentum continues, that as the weather warms up, more fans are going to come and enjoy what they see. And everyone's committed to providing a first-class experience at Target Field, win or lose. But, obviously, nights like last night, we keep having those. It's going to be a fun summer at Target Field, and looking forward to seeing more and more people come.
Sonny Gray tonight for the Bo Sox. The former Twin, Sonny Gray tonight for the Bo Sox. That sounds good enough to eat, doesn't it?
Yeah. It'll be another guy who obviously had Sonny, who was awesome for us.
Yep.
Another challenge for our group to go against one of the best pitchers in a game, and looking forward to seeing the guys compete and keep pushing forward.
Hey, man, I really enjoyed that. Hopefully you did too. Thank you very much for the time, and hopefully you guys keep tearing it up. Okay.
Yeah, thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Yep. See you, bud. Jeremy Zoll, general manager for the Minnesota Twins. Into the final hour. Let's play hockey with the captain. Wes Walsh joins us next.